Alright, so we are ready to go. Hi there. Voice acting and doing it from home. Yeah, it's become a lot more accessible to everyone these days, and with a proper setup, you can actually send your voice out to voice platforms or clients who are looking to hire voice talent. And with the right amount of skill and maybe a little bit of luck, you can score something and get paid. But yeah, let's talk about auditions and how they're going to be instrumental and pretty much your lifeblood in, consolidating a consistent work ethic and proper level of quality that's going to go into being a voice actor, especially from home. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Raymond Camaros. I'm a voice actor based out of Australia, and I've been doing acting for quite some time. Only stepped into voice acting just a little over a year ago. But I audition quite heavily for things that I find interesting, and I wanted to compile and make a video of all the different tips and tricks that I find to be useful for me. And I wanted to share them with anyone that's kind of new to this, or anyone that feels like they're kind of stagnating a little bit and are at the same kind of points of their careers as I am, where you're just kind of auditioning, finding stuff, and, stacking up against other very talented people. The point of this video, aside from just telling you all the different stuff that I go through, is about leveling up your auditions and making them impressionable, impactful, and just otherwise competitive, if you want to use that word. So let's begin, yeah? This is Ray's survival guide to good auditions, yeah? Now, a lot of the stuff that goes into making sure that you have good audio quality, it kind of just starts before you even hit record on your software, your DAW. And it all kind of goes and starts with the kind of space that you start recording in, the space that you inhabit as you do a few recording sessions to make good auditions and send them out. Your space is always going to be the first place that you have to think about. And it's often the number one stop that's often missed by a lot of new people to this. Like, they think they can buy a piece of gear, call it a day, and just go balls to the wall and have something that sticks for them. But the space, have a think about like where you're recording. You want something that's generally pretty silent, and then you're going to think about acoustically treating that to the best of your time, effort, and resource, as well as your ability. For me, I just kind of set up shop inside of one of the closets in my house. It's an innermost room. And in terms of dressing it up with acoustic treatment, we're not looking to soundproof because we're not about that right now. I've gone ahead and made little acoustic panels out of this foam here, and I've stuck it on bits of cardboard affixed with a bit of double-sided tape or just duct tape that you can loop around, and a little bit of Elmer school glue, and I've put that to cover most of the space. If you don't have that, you can basically use other substitutes like moving blankets, clothes, mattress toppers, and some people even use those egg cartons to varying degrees of effect and efficacy. But always think about your space and try to make sure that you've got the best place in your residence that will attenuate to good results for everything that you do after that. Before you actually hit record, you want to make sure that you're hydrated, because that's going to prevent mouth clicks and mouth noise from being something that arises quite consistently in your final products. It's a bit difficult to take them out, but water will often fix that for you. You want to make sure that you're motivated also before you actually start recording any sides, because if you're not motivated, then it's going to show up in your recording as a flat read or just something that's devoid of emotion. And also, something that's relating to that is just making sure that your body is free of any tension. So if you have tension in your neck, you want to stretch that out. If your vocal cords are feeling a little bit fried from an earlier session, probably not the best time to do any recording, because you want to give yourself a bit of a rest. But you're warming up the muscles in your mouth otherwise, like doing those type of things. Find what works for you and try to do that before you actually do a long session. The clothes that you wear into your booth or into a studio have to be stuff that's not going to inhibit your movements, especially if you're going to be doing efforts and stuff like that, where, the clothes rustling together against your body are going to be distracting. You don't want to be wearing leather, synthetic polyester, or the stuff that raincoats and parkas are made out of. You don't want to be doing that because it makes its own little sound profile that is not your voice, and it's really hard to remove that out of recordings. You're going to be standing up if possible, not like right now as you can see me through the camera. For all intents and purposes, this is comfortable for me to relay this information to you, but if I was auditioning, I would be standing up so I have full range of my diaphragm, and the muscles in my throat are going to be able to just do their thing. Kind of think about it, if you have a singing background, standing up is always going to be the most optimal for you to be doing short bursts of reads and stuff like that. But standing up if you can. Nothing wrong with sitting down, but just know that you have a lot more available to you if you're able to move around. And the time of day that you record, you want to make sure that it's optimal for you and you're not contending with other sound sources that could bleed into your microphone. Stuff like a AC unit, I see that pop up a lot in a lot of people's auditions. Make sure that it's turned off or that you're away from that sound source. If your neighbors are having a domestic dispute or one of them is just mowing the lawn, probably give it some time before that subsides, because it's just not good. For me, in my unique situation, I have to contend with stuff like crickets and cicadas that chime in the background, and I just have to wait, you know? You don't have to rush your auditions, especially if you know that the deadline is a couple days away. You don't have to be, freaking out. Just schedule some time to do your thing appropriately without all that external noise. That's all really that you need to understand with that. And then in terms of microphone setup, hopefully if you are, looking to do this more consistently and professionally, you've invested into a good set of gear. Now, some people are tossing up between USB and XLR. For me, personally, I went straight to an XLR setup with a dedicated audio interface, simply because I understood that you get a lot more sound clarity and fidelity out of a phantom-powered condenser microphone. USB is fine as well, and it does have its uses, but it gets a lot of knockback from studios that are only wanting you to record on a respectable condenser microphone that's powered by 48 volts of phantom power, because they want to work with that extra bit of detail. USB microphones do run into a little bit of issues because of the cable length. You're pretty much tethered to being in or around your computer space, and that could present a few different unique issues, like if you have a noisy fan on your desktop or your laptop, that could also be something that you need to kind of work with. And also, USB microphones can run into more radio frequency interference because it's so close to all these other electrical sources. But if that's all you have, don't let it stop you from actually trying to make it work, because I know people who make USB microphones work well and sound pretty much comparable to all the other auditions that use good microphone technique and a good microphone. If you're looking to understand what kind of microphone you gotta be using, always stick to a large diaphragm condenser microphone with a cardioid pickup. Cardioid being shaped like a heart. So if this is basically what I'm going to show for the example, it's going to have the full range of pickup in front of it in the shape of a heart, with the dead zone being behind it and a few bits of rejection to the side. The way that you speak to it, though, when you're doing character work or any sort of other reads and you want the best possible results, you don't need to speak directly in front of it, right? You want to put it on a 45-degree angle with it facing your mouth, and you want to have a pop filter in front of it, which is the next thing that we're going to be talking about right now. Now, pop filters, they basically serve the function of rejecting plosives from finding their way into your microphone and possibly ruining your take, because it presents a very unpleasant kind of sound. And if you're watching this video, you probably know what plosives are, so I won't explain that in detail here. But I'll talk about the different form factors that pop filters can take. Number one, you have one that actually sits on top of the microphone and has like a full 180 shield. I like this one because when you put it on any microphone, which it seems to be compatible with a lot, you can just set it and just leave it, especially if you move your microphone to different places in your space. It's going to work for you. Some people are more traditional, in which they have these kind of modular, angular type of ones that mounts to the back of your boom arm. It's still just as useful. You can do that and be away from it that way. Or you have like the windsocks that come on dedicated microphones that are kind of like this one, but they sit on the top and they accomplish the same end. Microphone placement though, just dropped the camera lid. Microphone placement though, let's talk about that. How you need to be positioning yourself in relation to the capsule. You can just do this measurement with your hand here, your pinky to your thumb. That's always going to be a good relative distance that you got to be from the microphone itself. Also embodying like the whole angle thing I was telling you about just a moment ago. The position of your microphone in your space, you basically, if you've chosen like a cupboard like mine, you can always try to put the microphone in the middle of the room thereabouts. Doesn't have to be dead center, but reasonably in the middle so you have an even distribution of your voice. Going in every direction and hopefully being absorbed by the different absorbent material that you have as part of acoustic treatments. So reminding you what that might be, that could be dedicated acoustic foam panels that you see behind me. It could be stuff like the mattress toppers or jumpers that are cotton and they're mounted on hangers that help mitigate the sound from coming back as reverb or echo. You don't want any reverb or echo in your final takes. Otherwise, it's going to be synonymous with the idea that you possibly recorded all your stuff in a bathroom, and no one wants that. It's very embarrassing. It's kind of like why people knock on the dubs of English things back in the early 2000s, right? For video games and stuff like that. We want to move past that so that way English can be respected a little bit more, especially as more people do it and it's more accessible. All right, so we've talked a little bit more about the, microphone. We've talked about like the pickup pattern and where you need to stand. We're going to talk about like moving on and reading the casting brief now. So when you find a project on any website that hosts voice talent and stuff like that, kind of like maybe Twitter or Casting Call Club, which is the one I use the most, you want to make sure that you're actually reading and observing what is required from you from the casting director or casting team. It's going to give you an idea of how you need to approach the audition and what you need to send to them so they can scrutinize and evaluate your performance. It's going to tell you what kind of specs you need to export your audio to them, whether they want that in WAV or MP3. Now, MP3 is going to be the most used one from my experience, because if you're giving emails or submitting stuff via email, you don't want like a massive file to prevent your file from actually being opened up and listened to, because WAVs are basically the uncompressed form of your audio and they take up a lot of space. MP3 is going to be the way to go, unless it's specified that you have to submit it in WAV. But MP3s are smaller files and they're easier to just receive and listen to. So have a look and see if they need that, is what I meant to say. Before that though, they'll also ask you to basically send your audio that is either in 16 bits or 44,100 kilohertz. Sometimes it could be that, or it could be 48,000 kilohertz at 24 bits. Just if that's specified, just follow those instructions. So that way, if they want to work with the material right away, if you get cast, that's what you'd expect to be working with in your DAW. All right. So it's also going to tell you, hopefully in the brief of a project, a good one, I would say, is if they want you to slate your audition or not. Like if you don't know what a slate is, it's basically just saying your name, the character, and then possibly how many takes you're doing, yeah? An example would be Raymond Camaros, character name, 1 take, or 2 takes, or whatever that is. The point of a slate is basically just to, identify yourself and just basically let the casting person know how many takes you're doing. That's all it is. You don't need to spend more than 2 seconds actually doing it. So just say Raymond Camaros, character name, go right into it, yeah? That's usually at the start or at the end of your audio file. That's all that really is. Don't go into the mistake of leading in by introducing your whole life story, or even taking like an absurd amount of time slating it if you really don't have to. And if it's not even necessary at all, just don't do it because you're going to upset the casting team with that. There was a project that I auditioned for and I got the part. And when I was listening to other auditions on Casting Call Club, as you can, there was a guy that took 16 seconds to slate his audition, and I'm just going to paraphrase the name, but to give you an idea of how awkward it might be for someone to listen to and observe, it went a little something like this. Soul G Vegan, character name, 2 takes. It went a little something like that, and please don't make that mistake. It's very awkward. And finally, also in the casting brief as well, you have to observe if the casting team wants you to read the lines in a certain order. The format usually is presented and expressed by ABC or AAA, BBB, CCC. If you don't know what those mean, basically you're going to have a set of lines in a good project that requires you to read them as part of your audition. Let's use this Flying Power energy drink, for example, explaining what ABC format is. So we'll just make up some lines right now and we'll go with it. First line, A, Flying Power energy drink. B, contains caffeine, not recommended for children, pregnant, or lactating women, and individuals sensitive to caffeine. That's B, your second line. Third one, consume no more than 1 can per day. And that's basically all your lines if you're doing ABC formats. Now, if it's like AAA, BBB, CCC, it's basically just reading the first line 3 times, having 3 attempts to do them of different inflections, and then just going to the second line and then the third line. Sometimes there's more than 3, but the standard format that I've encountered is just 3 lines in a project brief, and you read them as specified and meet the exact same recording specs as specified. Oh wow, so I actually underestimated just how long this video might be, so what I'm going to do is split everything into parts and explain what we do after we hit the record button in a new video. You probably don't want to listen to me yammer on for quite a long time in one sitting, so we'll do that. If you stick around for that one, cool, come join us in that one. Might have missed a few things here in this video, so feel free to type a few questions in the comments below and I'll see if I can answer them to the best of my ability. But let's go to the next video now, and I hope to see you there.